Welcome back, everybody, to the next edition of AFL Timeline History and Magic. We are on to Madden 12.
So exciting. We made it through a full Madden, guys.
We made it through a full Madden where we last left off. We finished up Madden 11 with kind of a dud. We made it through half of Season 4, and then PSN Network went down. It was down for several weeks, and we decided to close up shop and call it a year. And a lot of us spent the majority of summer playing in Madden City, which we alluded to on the last episode. And that really helped us build a strong bond that gave us a strong ownership group going into Madden 12. Before we got into Madden 12, a lot of big things happened that really helped strengthen AFL. I talked about that relationship we had going on with Trump and Madden City. Trump ran Madden City with Ultimate Fan Stop, Costa, Rilo, and a guy named Greener. And what we had decided to do at this point in time was, since we had so much crossover with owners of guys that were in both leagues, what would be good was, let's just create a community. So what we'd do is we'd have one big chat that we were all in, and yeah, we'd throw the chat on AFL for our guys, and we'd throw the chat on Madden City for their guys, but it was the same chat. So it was really full. And it was a great relationship. Trump and Rilo and Ridge and I were exchanging emails on, hey, let's make uniform rules for these leagues. So if guys go back and forth, it's not a huge transition. So like, hey, Madden City has an opening. Let's get a guy from AFL, and the rules are exactly the same. Like, we had this all planned out, and it was a really good plan. And during that time, Trump and I, and for those of you guys that know who S. Gibbs and Z. Farrells are, at the time they were called MaddenBible.com, and they were just getting off the ground. Trump and I, mainly Trump, reached out to S. Gibbs on that show, and we got an agreement with Gibbs that the Super Bowl champion from AFL would go on their weekly show and play Gibbs in the game of the week. So that was a huge win for us. And it ended up not really coming to fruition. What happened was Gibbs just ended up playing our eventual Super Bowl champion, which you can see here was Han. They played on Gibbs's stream, but it wasn't on their This Week in Madden show. It was just like on one of Gibbs's live streams. So it was still pretty cool. He actually ended up playing Ridge that exact same afternoon and beat them both. So the Madden City relationship was going good, and we decided to steal another thing from BDFL Magic, the favorite feature of yours and mine of AFL. We
Daddy
started
Warbucks. Oh,
almost. We started AFL Talk Radio. Gotta love it.
once in a while I hear that song randomly pop up in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any words. All I know is kind of the tune.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the words. Forget about the yard of the black and blue. Something, 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 something.
Oh, I mean, we were on Blog Talk Radio, just like Big Dog, and the original hosts were
Blog Talk Radio.
Blog Talk Radio, and we had no idea what we were doing. As you can see, Edub sending me messages on Facebook right now. If you're watching the stream, Edub, chill. And it was a work in progress. I think our first show came off a lot more organized than we were hoping, but it was Ridge, Magic, and myself, and the very first show came out the day before Madden 12 dropped. And we had guests on that show. We had Han. We had Swag call in. Our whole idea was we wanted to create a show that was about the league, but we also wanted to create a show that was about Madden. So along with just like, okay, these are the owners, these are the teams, these are the divisions, these are the matchups, we also wanted to be like, okay, well, how do I get better at Madden? So Swag called in and explained how labbing works. And, Han called in and kind of explained what he'll do when he wants to try new plays out. And I thought it was a really fun show. And it kept going, it kept growing. And through the years, that's where we got to the AFL podcast. But that's where it all started here in Madden 12. So, Magic, let's just talk about the radio show for a second. I think once we started doing that radio show, I think for a lot of guys that were still kind of like, okay, AFL's cool, seems like there's some potential, but, maybe it's not my number one league yet. I think a lot of guys that solidified AFL as their number one league.
Definitely. You put that kind of effort out, and you let people call into it too. It goes a long way. It's not just like faceless guys are the ones who are in charge of the league or whatever, and it's all about them. No, it shows. We let people from Canada call in, man.
We did. We had sound bites making fun of Canada. Unfortunately, we had sound bites making fun of Hadley, which I still regret to this day. But it was a good time. If you, I'm going to go in the comment section or not the comment section, in the description on this YouTube video. I'm going to put a link to our first show, and I'm also going to put a link to the season recap show where Han, who you see on screen, called in and we talked about his season. So if you want to go back and listen to those shows, they make for entertaining listens. They're still out there in the Blog Talk universe. So we covered the Madden City, the start of Madden City. We covered the fact that we started AFL Talk Radio. And in Madden 12 Magic, one thing we didn't have was we didn't have a fully functional franchise mode. It was basically a season mode with no salary cap, no consequences, no contracts, no consequences for signing a bunch of all-stars. So we tried out a function called League Manager. I'm sure a lot of guys use this. A lot of guys that weren't even in AFL are familiar with it. League Manager was a website that had programming capabilities. You could hook it up to your Madden League, and it would give you a salary cap. It sounded like a really cool idea, and it was a really cool idea, but it lacked some serious execution.
Oh God, people could, well, as we found out rather quickly, people could go in there and kind of lie about the contracts that they would give their elite players, and then the tracking of this and making sure everyone was on the up and up, and it was better than nothing though. I mean, there were a lot of problems with it, but it was better than nothing, and it really amplified the franchise experience that EA wasn't giving us, and it was fun to have.
I agree with what you said. It's better than nothing. We were still a year away from the Madden 13 birth of the connected franchise where they input the salary cap in the fully functional franchise mode. It did have its holes, though. Like the actual salary cap ceiling was so high that nobody was at risk of hitting it, so we'd have to manually set it. And it was just a mess, and players would get cut. And then we also had a guy go in there in League Manager, because you could make roster moves from League Manager, and then hacked our league and cut a bunch of players, and we had to have guys like SJR go in and save our league from that. So it was, and we had to manually put guys back on rosters. It was a huge mess. So we had that going for us, but 12 was a big 12. What's up?
Was that Cat Like?
That was League Hitman.
League Hitman. When was Cat Like? Was he
Weird.
12 as well, just later?
12 Cat Like is gonna have his own feature on the
Okay,
next episode. Madden 12 Season 2. We're going to talk all about how Cat-like...
There we go. No, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Okay. We won't get into that. So we talked about the radio show, but so there were a couple of hiccups at the beginning. One, at this point in time, this wasn't something where when a roster update came out day one, you could use it in franchise mode. There were separate roster updates for franchise mode and for other modes like ranked game, offline games. And the franchise roster update did not come. So we were waiting, we were guessing when it was going to come. This was in the very, very early stages, I think, of Twitter at this point in time, so it wasn't like Donnie Moore was on there telling you it's going to be out next week. So we did a couple radio shows. We did just the first radio show as kind of our introduction. The second one, we did a league preview. We broke down every division. It was pretty fun. And then we planned on the next radio show, we'd already be in games because it was coming up on September. And it was actually a couple days after the NFL had actually kicked off. And we were just certain that the rosters would drop before that happened. And they didn't. And so here we are. We have this radio show scheduled, and we have no Madden to talk about. We've already done our season previews. So we decided to call an audible at the last second and do a NFL Week 1 review, which I thought was a lot of fun. We talked, it was Cam Newton's rookie year, so we compared Cam Newton to Tim Tebow, and I want to honestly say that I've listened back to this show. Ridge, Magic, Swag was on, myself. We all at the time said that you can't even compare these two. One guy is uber talented. The next guy is a great college quarterback, so we all look very smart there.
Hey!
we broke down all the NFL games. This was the year that Peyton Manning was injured, so Magic was heartbroken about Kerry Collins starting for his team, but it ended up turning into Andrew Luck. So to me, it was fun because I've always kind of wanted to be, a fake NFL commentator, I guess, and it was fun to be able to play that role for a week. The rosters did end up coming out a few days later. Ridge and I actually at one point got so frustrated we were going to try to go in and manually adjust rosters to get up to present day moves. Because for those that don't know, if you use the stock rosters when the game drops and you don't even get a roster update, you're looking at like May and June because it just takes so long to build a game. So all those guys that got cut after the June 1st cuts and training camp cuts and all that stuff, it didn't even feel like an up-to-date version of Madden. So Ridge and I tried to do that, and it just wasn't happening. So we were like, we just got to wait. We did wait. It worked out. We get to Season 1. Everything's going good. We have guys we brought over from the summer in Madden City, guys like Bowser, guys like Scott Warner, guys like Shadow. And another guy we brought to the league at this point in time was my father, Tom. He was the Washington Redskins. His name was Tom. His real name is Tom, too. And so I haven't really told this story to a lot of people. There's some guys that know this. The guys I'm a little closer with in the league do. But I guess that would have been 2011 summer when Madden 12 came out in the fall. So my dad was in his 60s and actually had gotten diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer that summer. And it was, you can imagine how devastating that was. And my dad and I always grew up playing Madden together. So, and we didn't live super close. We were about an hour away, so I'd see him from time to time. But I was spending a lot more time with him because, stage 4 lung cancer, it's pretty obvious where this is going. And we were hanging out, and I was telling him about the Madden League. He's like, hey, can I get a team? And what am I going to say? Like, no, sorry. We have a strict owner policy, and I can't get you in, Dad. Maybe next year, but probably not because you got stage 4 lung cancer. So, I texted Ridge, and I talked to Magic and Sham at this time. I was like, guys, can we do it? And Ridge was like, obviously, yes. So he took over Washington. It didn't work out. He, played a few games and just didn't have the time or the energy for it. So the thing that came from that, and this is relevant too because when we get later into Madden 12, I had to step away for reasons you can probably figure out, and we'll talk about that as we get into the future seasons. But the guy that took over for my dad, the Washington Redskins, was Stop Cheesin'. So with that, we got one of our top core owners, so just another talented player to come to this league, and we're off and running, and the season's going well, and everything's going great. We have this promise at the end of the year that whoever wins our league is going to play S. Gibbs. A bunch of us are in Madden City, a bunch of us are in SMSL, and then one day, Magic, we're all in chat, and Greener starts banning people because they're cussing. And it's just, it was a mess.
It certainly did not sit well with the AFL folk, where a lot of the chat comes up with those. Oh man, you remember that little the gray box that would just block out your expletives?
Mm-hmm.
I would randomly come to chat and just see a screen full of those, and I'm like, well, this is probably a fun time to jump in and chat. Let me get in on this.
Yeah, exactly. That was.
And then you go over to Madden City, and Greener's like, no, none of that. none of that will be here.
So
like, bleep you, Greener's like, all right, well, okay. Demote down to guest, kick him out.
Yeah, Greener was banning guys, and this was a shared chat, so it's not like we had an AFL chat to go back to. It was like one coded chat that was on all the pages, and so he was banning people, and Sham actually came to my message. He was like, guys, he's like, dude, this is cool that we're working with them. We got to get out of this chat, though. It's just not a good look. So we took our chat back to AFL, and that was probably the beginning of the division between. None of us liked Greener. He ran a great league. Give him credit for that. We talked about that on the last show. But we had to get out of that chat and get the control back to our chat. And it put Trump in a really tough spot because Trump ran Madden City. Greener was a great commissioner over in Madden City. I think if Trump had some. If Trump was honest with himself, he probably would say, Greener probably stepped over the line. But I think if we're honest with ourselves, at that point in time, we could be pretty inappropriate at times. We were a loosey-goosey group, and Greener wanted to be a little bit more mature. I understand that, different strokes for different folks. I definitely enjoy more so like the free, say what you want atmosphere. I think, it put Trump in a bad spot and then left a bad taste in some of our mouths. So, I know Ridge and myself, we left the Madden City League, which, we stayed in Rilo's league, but we left Madden City, and which led to Trump leaving AFL, and Costa left AFL, and it ended up just being like a rift that, as great as things were over the summer of Madden 11 and coming into Madden 12, like the relationship between us and Madden City just absolutely deteriorated and didn't get rebuilt at all during Madden 12. It was, Trump and I were always cool, like on Facebook and stuff. Like we would talk and share texts and stuff from time to time, infrequently, but there was just the crossover between Madden City and AFL was pretty much dead at that point as far as like commissioners. We pretty much went our separate ways and didn't want to be tied with them, and it was unfortunate because that was a great resource for us. I don't know if Magic, do you have anything you want to add about the Madden City experience?
No, it was unfortunate that we did have this kind of rift between us because I mean they had 4 or 5 leagues or something running over there on that site. So when you kind of burn a bridge with the guy who's running it, and two, I guess second place, I guess Greener would have been.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a place where you could go. I mean, like you would just like load the chat, and before you could even scroll down the page, you'd already be like, "Oh, I've been banned."
Right.
So I mean, it was an unfortunate thing, but I mean, imagine how many man we could have like 200 people that we have to pick from if that didn't happen.
Well,
but,
I think
I mean, it worked out, and I think we got all the people that we wanted to get. So
yeah, and I can honestly say that as time has gone on, we've obviously patched it up with Trump and Costa, and Rilo and us have no hard feelings. That Rilo has since moved on from AFL, but not because of that. So it was a rift, and I think everybody was at fault. It's not like I'm sitting here saying like Madden City was wrong. I think we definitely had things we were wrong about. You had a lot of prideful people. We all believed our league was good, and we didn't want anybody telling us how we were able to act in our chat. So that's the story there. And so the league starts, and this Magic was, as Madden 11, we just started on a fly, and we were like, what team do you want? What team do you want? Okay, fine. We got 32 teams, and Magic like went to class and came back, and there were no teams left, and luckily we booted money and got him the Packers.
Free money.
This was the first year that we had to do a team selection, and this was the birth of collecting lists. And I know at the time randomizer wasn't even a consideration, but I think when we collected these lists, we were like, oh, this will be super easy. And then we got the list in front of us, and we were like, oh my God, this is one impossible puzzle to put together.
Oh, that was a setup. Yes.
That was a setup.
yes. It would, yeah, because, we counted out, who was a fan of what team. It's like, all right, so-and-so will want them, so-and-so will want them, so-and-so's friends with them. So, this will be easy. This will be easy. Maybe we'll have trouble, filling the Browns because they're the Browns. But, that'll be fine. And then you get a list, and it's like, oh, everyone loves Aaron Rodgers. Oh, all right. Well, that's fine, I guess. How do we decide
right?
Who gets who? How do we make sure that everyone is still happy and still wants to be in the league? And I think that's what I was most concerned about. Not filling the teams, but filling them in a way where no one feels like they were slighted so much so that they were going to leave the league, and we'd be scrambling trying to find someone to take a spot.
And I mean, at the time, we had guys that knew they'd helped us set up AFL Madden 11 when it first started. And
Money.
so, like, yeah, Money. Like, I think Money was a guy. I know Sham. I love Sham to death, but he was a guy that did this. SJR did this, like, send in a list of one team. Like, here's the team I want. Okay, yeah. Guess you're getting them. What are we going to say? I mean, obviously, they were a top owner at the time. So here we are. Season started. We've done all that. We still had a season to play. And this was the first year since Han started Season 4, Madden 11 didn't finish. This was the first full year that Han was in AFL. And he won the entire thing. He beats Hadley by 4 points in the Super Bowl. Han's Raiders defeat Hadley's Bucks. And honestly, we're going to get Stokes joining us here in a couple seasons from now. So we'll save the dialogue on Han for maybe a future show when Stokes hops on with us. But what this did start, Magic, I think maybe this is the time to focus on Hadley. Hadley in Madden City, in AFL Madden 11, was just kind of a guy. And then in Madden City that summer, really established himself as a top guy. Made several Super Bowl runs, didn't win a Super Bowl, but made it as far to maybe a conference championship game here and there. And then comes out swinging in Madden 11, and Madden 12, makes it to a Super Bowl. He was in a division with K. Will, by the way, and he swept them that year and ended up going to the Bowl. He beat Ridge along the way. No, I'm sorry, Scott. We can go down and look at the tournament right now. Ridge lost to Scott. Ridge was the Niners. Hadley was the Bucks. And then Hadley beat Scott's Bears in the championship game. And this started an unfortunate string for Hadley of 3 of the next 4 years going to the Super Bowl and losing the Super Bowl each time. So
The original bridesmaid.
the original bridesmaid was Hadley, and ironically enough, after Madden 12, he never made it back to the bowl, but a very impressive run. It's a shame he didn't come away with a Super Bowl championship. But let's look at the division champions from that year. My New England Patriots won the AFC East. Shadows Cleveland Browns in their AFL debut win the AFC North. Westside Charles Jacksonville Jaguars win the AFC South. Hans Oakland Raiders win the AFC West. Ridge's 49ers win the NFC West. Hadley's Bucks win the NFC South. Scott's Bears win the NFC North. And Swag's Giants win the NFC East with wildcard teams K-Will, Bowser, Goof, and UGA Magic. What jumps off the page to me right away, we were lacking talent in Madden 11. Talent was not a problem in Madden 12.
Definitely mean you listen. Oh, man. Ugga. My guy Ugga. I don't know why you keep calling him UGA.
I was like, dude, you need to watch more college sports. It's definitely UGA Bulldog.
No. It's Ugga for the Bulldog. That's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, I miss that guy. What a relaxed guy. You just listen to that list of names. We really upgraded from just the scraps that we could find from Madden 11. And, that was a key point, too. Going from 11 to 12, now that we had more time and we were calm and we weren't, rushing just to get a league up, we could really focus on how competitive we wanted our league to be. We brought in Han, we brought in Swag, we brought in K-Will. We were really trying to be a more competitive league and have people get the word out there. And anytime there was an opening, it was, hey, I got this guy from my league. He's pretty good over there. Yeah, bring him in. Bring him in. And, it's like, hey, we got this guy who plays all his games, but he's not that good. It's like, all right, let's try this other guy first, and then we know we have him. And you look at the league now, and a lot of good people.
A lot of good people. And one thing as commissioners it gave us a lot of flexibility, too, where in 11, guys could not play their games, and it's like, well, let's make sure we keep the league full. 12, man, you start slipping up, it's like, all right, we got a guy ready to take your spot. So once you start establishing yourself as a league, you take your spot. So Han gets his first Super Bowl victory in Madden 12, his very first year in AFL, defeats Hadley's Tampa Bay Bucks in the big game. We talked about all the things that started off in Madden 12, and we're going to move on to Season 2 of Madden 12. The 5th Super Bowl is coming up in AFL history, and when we get to that, we'll see you on the next show.